merely reduce literature to myth and vice versa. Neither of the two exists on its own. Myth has always been an integral element of literature. This webinar will open avenues to every one of us in exploring the mythological elements in the process of creative reception. Here we have Dr. Pawar PRAMOD Ambadasrao, Assistant Professor and Head, Department of English, Director, IQAC, San Dayaneshwar Mahavidyalaya, Aurangabad, with great notion to help us understand the different forms that myth take in literature. I have to express my heartfelt welcome to Dr. P. Mahendran, Secretary of our college, for rendering immense help in making each activity of this college more successful. Also, I take this opportunity to welcome our principal, Dr. N.R. Shanti Makeshwari, who did all possible help in organizing this webinar. It gives me immense pleasure in welcoming our cherished director, Dr. G. Venkatachalapati, who always supports us for such initiatives. A very special welcome to all the participants for being with us today. And talking about our chief guest, Dr. Pramod is a man of versatile genius who has received the Best Emerging Poet Award for publishing poetry collection entitled Ubiquity. His publication runs a number of pages and he has published several books. Also, he is the director of IQAC. To reach the world with innovative ideas, he runs the Epitome International Journal of Multidisciplinary Research, and he has received the Epitome Excellence Award for Quality Research. We are fortunate to have such a resourceful prodigy with us here today. And I am fully confident that this webinar will enlighten you, provide valuable guidance, and offer a rewarding and enriching experience to all of us. Thank you so much. And I request all the participants to mute on and turn off your videos. And sir, dear sir, yes, the session is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. You hear me? Good afternoon.
Sir, I hope that you have to increase the volume level of your
volume. Is it okay? Is it okay, sir?
Volume control. So increase the volume.
Okay. You hear me?
Yesterday it was very good.
Sir, now is it okay?
Oh, yes, sir.
You hear me?
Not that much clear, sir.
Voice is not clear?
Yes, sir.
1 minute. Is it okay now?
Fine, sir.
Is it okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So here I make my presentation, and first of all, good afternoon to all of you. So I'm here to present my views regarding literature and mythology. I think you hear me clearly? No, you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. I express my genuine thankfulness to all the participants and the Department of English. So, in my presentation, I'm going to read out the paper that I have written and explain wherever it is necessary. So it's very important to exactly understand what mythology means, what literature means, because sometimes we feel it that it is very difficult to understand because we assume myths as false stories. But is it a false thing, or is it a false story or a true story? It's a debatable point. So it's again lead us to the notion of belief and the trust in the religion we live in and the culture where which made us grow up. So here myths mean, generally speaking, the false stories rooted in the tradition, culture, history, and are produced in the societies by the people about a specific time in bygone age. So again, here we are talking about the past. So whenever we talk about the past, we interrogate the universe, we interrogate the nature, we interrogate most of the things in the nature, because man has, it's very crucial to understand one thing, that man has his own demarcations. He cannot surpass or surmount the demarcations that is controlled and monitored by the nature upon him. He cannot surpass the universe or the universal truths. So here, with the help of the capabilities and the man's utmost abilities, he wants to overcome the nature. But is it possible to overcome the nature? No, not at all. Man knows its demarcations and its limitations. But still, what happens in the nature is that most of the times man thinks of overcoming this nature by his rational things, or through his rational thinking. So here I would like to quote one of the most important quotation by Robert Frost. What he says is very important, as I think you might have studied this by stopping woods on snowy evening, by woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So these are the philosophical lines by uh, Robert Frost, an American poet. So here I would like to say one thing, that how many times it thundered before Franklin took the hint? How many apples fell on Newton's head before he took the hint? The nature is always hinting at you. It hints over and over again, and we suddenly take the hint. So what's crucial in our understanding is that we think of the nature. You hear me clearly? Let me clear first. Hello?
Sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Uh, is there any problem of listening to me, or is okay?
So it's okay, sir. It's clear. No problem, sir.
Okay, okay. So that I must, or else there must not be any problem.
Sir, if
Okay,
it is not audible, I will inform you.
okay. So I will get stuck to my these ideas now. Okay.
Okay, right, sir. Sir, if you want to share your screen, you can share it.
Screen, you want me to? No, no, it's okay.
If you
Now
wish. If you wish.
this is.
Okay, thank you.
So where were we? I think we are talking about the universality, the philosophy, and the science. So here is a very simple definition about science. What science means? What we know is science, which relies on experimentation, beliefs, experimentations, and the proven facts. So on the other hand, philosophy, what philosophy means? Philosophy means what we do not know. So here, most of the times, so these mythologies or the myth stories are very integral to the life of human life. Why? Because fear is essential. Without fear, man cannot have its own survival. So what's important, first of all, let me complete that quotation. So I was talking about how many times it thundered before Franklin took the hint. So it means nature is the biggest laboratory for all of us. Nature is the research and resource to all of us. So these days, man forgets about the abundance of nature, the profundity of nature, the mystery of nature, the incomprehensibility of nature. So because we try to understand each and everything through our rational processes the rather than our spiritual rather than spiritualism. So here myths mean far stories rooted in the tradition, culture, history, and are produced in the societies by the people about a specific time in bygone days. So nature is always hinting at us. It hints over and over again, and we suddenly take the hint. It means we are being hinted by the nature every time. So this hinting is very crucial in order to understand what the nature means to us. They are orally transmitted from one generation to another. So what is that about the transmission of these myths? So these myths are orally transmitted from one generation to another. So most of the, if some stories are transmitted orally from one generation to another, so the new generation or the next generation begins to interrogate the facts or the stories, and they may say that something is not real. Is it real? So here, I have so many videos that I will share with you, all of you, in the course of time. So you will understand that it becomes very enigmatical on the part of the people to believe whether something really exists or not. So here, they are orally transmitted from one generation to another. They are simply stories recurrently voiced of religious origins. So every religion has its own expressions, own stories. So sometimes the people in that specific religion, they believe in that, or sometimes they don't believe in this. So they define natural or supernatural spectacles to the people. So in literature also, these myths are reflected. So how it is reflected, I will talk about in the course of time. That's why it's very crucial to learn how literature interpreted myth and how it reflected in literature and has become a vital part of it. So what's important is the interpretation of literature. So can we interpret literature? Can we interpret myths? Yes, we can interpret literature is a media or a source through which myths are being interpreted. So it is reflected in literature and it has become a vital part of it. So myths are observed as symbol, an allegory, or a theory. So here is very crucial to understand that what are the myths. So myths are nothing but the symbols or an allegory or a theory. So myth is a predictable tale about an incident or a character with or without the use of true justifications. So everything is cautioned. For example, if I say when hydrogen is treated with oxygen, then in presence of sunlight, then there is the formation of water. A chemist in his laboratory does a chemical reaction. What's the chemical reaction? That H2O, the formation of H2O. H2 means hydrogen. When hydrogen is treated with oxygen in presence of sunlight, then there is the formation of water. Water means H2O. So we can see one thing, that a chemist starts dancing looking at a drop of water and says that I have created this. So creation is beyond human comprehension. Creation is beyond human capabilities, potentialities, intelligence. Criticism is easy, and criticism follows creation because everything is created by God. Different religions interpret the universe differently, and we think of believing these stories or not, it's up to us. it's true or not, it's up to us. Because everything is not accepted by the people. We say so many things, so many stories, it is orally transmitted from one generation to another, but people hardly believe in it. People question things. We talk about the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Upanishads, Vedas, and all these things. Because man is a product of its own religion. I'm born and brought up in a particular culture. So I naturally, consciously, unconsciously, directly, indirectly imbibe many traits and characteristics of that particular religion. So that is deeply rooted into me. And if I go wrong, if I do something terribly wrong, God will punish me. So these myths are used by the writers, and these myths are reflected into literature. So in the form of archetypes, in the form of symbols, and we interpret these myths and we question these myths. So let's see what's there. So here is myth is a predictable tale about an incident or character we are with or without the use of true justification. So that's very crucial to understand. That's why every time true justification is not possible in myth. It consists of demigods, deities in the universe. It is classified with rituals, actions, and natural phenomena. A theory takes in historical events and supernatural beings. Literature is all about persuasion to people and humanizing them. So literature, in every literature, Indian writing in English, or in every literature, we can see one thing, that literature is all about persuasion to the people and humanizing them. So efforts are made to humanize people. Efforts are made to universalize the notions and the ideas which have been imbibed into the minds traditionally. So these are countless benefits of mythology to mankind. There is no word borderline for myths wherein the truth is suspected. So here, one thing I would like to say. I'm talking to all of you. Is it true? You are listening to me. Is it true? What's the truth? If I ask you the question, what's the truth? We see that we perceive, whatever we perceive is truth. What we see is truth. So this is the physicality. I may say that this is illusion. This is not true. So here, in critical theories, in critical theories, especially post-structuralism or deconstruction, Jacques Derrida's deconstruction, we see absence is presence. Absence is presence because we try to understand the presence of absences held in a space. For example, I can say one thing that I think you might have read about, most of the students might have read about at the signal we call, why should we call red as a red, blue as a blue, and green as a green? Why to call? How can we identify that it's a red color? We identify it's a red color because we know that it's not green, it's not blue, because absences makes us understand the presence. For example, one more discussion I would like to have with you in a very simple way. Does God exist or God does not exist? It's a debatable point. Many scholars interpret as per their intellectuality and readings. God exists or not? So here I say that God doesn't exist. There is no God, if I say. When I say no, it means that something exists there. When will you say no? If something exists there. When will you say yes if, if something is absent? It means they are interdependent. So that's why man goes on suspecting things. So here, there is no word borderline for myths wherein the truth is suspected, the truth is questioned. So if you listen to many stories, you can see that this life itself is an enigma. Why it's an enigma? Because we do not know exactly who we were before our death and what will happen after death. So this creates fear, and this fear is essential. This fear is a must for the survival, for the human survival. So let's proceed. Myths and literature are mutually dependent upon each other. So let's see the existence of the myth and literature. So they are internally dependent, mutually dependent. Literature cannot be reduced to myth, whereas myth cannot be reduced to literature. Because literature portrays, mirrors, reflects myths. They are interconnected and interdependent to each other. So myth is a vital element of literature which proposes multifaceted stories for the fiction. So what exactly myths do in literature? It expands, it modifies, or rewrites its elements in creativity. So the author is creative. So he uses the mythological elements in his writing. It offers the narrative strategies about the evolution of literature, as in Aristotle's Poetics, wherein mythos refers to plot, to a unified construct of required and likely actions. About the etymology of mythos, meaning word, myth exemplifies the self-same origin of literature, which is rooted in oral tradition and the performance of literary text. So mentioning to mythos in the Aristotelian sense of the term, Northrop Frye treats myth as, what is myth for Northrop Frye? What he says exactly about myth, I quote here, a structural organizing principle of literary form. It's a structural organizing principle. Myth signifies an invented traditional story. So we talk about myth means we talk about the traditional stories, invented stories, because myth is the signification of that. It offers justification for early history of a society. See, we have children at home. They ask many questions about the Ramayana, about the Mahabharata, or many. And the questions are really very difficult to answer, but still we answer them on the basis of the stories. Then they ask many questions about those stories, and we fail to justify what we say. Justification is difficult to the stories which have been orally transmitted from one generation to another. Then it is written, then it has its written form later. So that's why it offers justification for the early history of a society or a natural phenomenon. Most importantly, the roots of mythological narratives are found in classical antiquity, which needs to be studied. What's important is here is classical antiquity. So it's very important to understand or find the roots of this mythology that is deeply rooted in classical antiquity. The focus is mainly on the stories as they have been transmitted and received by Greek and Latin literature. It served as the establishment for modern myth making by offering the mythological identification of characters and themes in literature and art. So we see that what's an art? Oscar Wilde defines art lies in concealing its artificiality. Art is artificial. Art is not natural. And there is one verb, that is art lies. It means it tells lies, or it is where it is existed. That is, art lies in concealing its artificiality. It conceals, it hides its own artificiality. So art is natural, but it is suspected. So it means that if you come to Aurangabad also here in Maharashtra and visit the Ellora caves and many caves here also. So we never believe that it is made, the Kailash temple for example. We said that it's not made by human beings. So it's not made by human beings. Because in one stone it was being carved. And you see the miracle in each and every objects you perceive there. So it served as the establishment for modern myth making by offering the mythological identification of characters and themes in literature and art. Literature is the body of text as storytelling. They are rooted in oral tradition. Myth is dependent on its translation in other media. Principally, art and literature are to preserve and disseminate its imagery and its knowledge, which becomes retrievable in different cultural, geographical, and historical space. Mythological elements appeared in art necessitates their re-embling into a literary plane where they become readable and fathomable. Literature emerges as the absolute tool for the transformation of mythical stories. It is thus constitutive for the communication of myth. So let's talk about the knowledge of literature and myth. So let's talk about these things in its broader scale. First of all, I say about knowledge. What is knowledge? If I ask the question, what is knowledge? Then we say that we read many books and our mind is sharpened and we have the data in our mind and we express the data, and that is called intelligence. Is it intelligence? Is it knowledge that we perceive? Is it a true knowledge? Most of the times we say that it's a fiction. Everything is illusion. It's fictitious. And we express the same, we perceive the same, we understand the same. And we write the same in books, and the books are being studied. Where is the truth there? Where is the center? And we try to decenter it. It means basically there are two sorts of knowledge in a broader scale. This is the knowledge of physicality. It's a knowledge of human intelligence, beyond which man knows nothing. Although thousands of theories have been written, although many interpretations are given. For example, Big Bang theory, how the universe is created, how gods are created. Many questions. It's very easy to question, very difficult ones, because man knows nothing about most of the things. So it becomes a myth. So these myths are presented in the form of archetypes, symbols through literature, because it creates a certain sort of phobia in the psyche. And this is essential for human survival. So that's why, if we go deeper and deeper in this matter and ask the question, each and every viewer of this video must ask the question, who am I? Who am I? It means this is my body. I say my because I want to connect my body with myself. If this is my body, then who am I? I am different and body is different. So from here, the enigmatical things, the mysterious things begin. Most of the times we want to say something, but we never say it. Most of the times we said many things, but we didn't want to say that. Then there is a product of difference. So in this fashion, everything becomes enigmatical, mysterious, terrified to the human mind. So, but still, at night, if we look at the sky, we look at so many stars, thousands of stars in the sky. And if we think of how they are created, then again, so many big questions will start appearing in our mind without any answer. So we go on reading books, reading religious texts, scriptures, Vedas, Upanishad, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, Bhagavad Gita. We read literature thoroughly and try to get the answers. Do we really get the answers we have been looking for? For example, I would like to say something about Yavatri. It's a story that was used by Girish Karnad in Haivadana, I think. What was his wish? He left his kingdom and went for penance in the jungle. And he was in a deep samadhi. And the god appeared in front of him and asked him, "What do you want?" Then he says that I have tremendous knowledge of each and everything in life. I have everything. I experienced. I experimented. I lived my life happily. Nothing left. But still I am not happy. I am not satisfied. Why? Because I am in search of knowledge. So which knowledge he has been struggling to achieve? He wanted to know the universal knowledge, the knowledge beyond human comprehension, intelligence. It's not easy to accumulate that knowledge. And God said to him one thing, that you do one thing, just go home, take the darshan of your gurus and have the knowledge from your gurus. Whatever the knowledge you will receive from your guru, so that's your demarcation, that's your limitation. You cannot have more than that. So that's why each and everyone wants to know something about the universe, the things beyond human comprehension. I want to tell you something about one story of Bhartrhari in the 11th century. He wrote three books: Shringar, Niti Shatak, and Vakyapadiya. It's in Sanskrit. So there is a story of Bhartrhari. He was a sage, he was a pandit, he was the king. Bhartrhari was the king, and he was very happy in his life. Each and every person has a turning point in his life. Once you encounter the mysterious things in your life, the life goes on changing. So here about the Bhartrhari, a Sanskrit philosopher. One day, a rishi came to his kingdom and said, Bhartrhari, the king, I love you very much. And here is the apple. Please have this. This is an immortal apple. If you have this apple, if you swallow this, you will perpetually be fresh, young, and immortal. There will be no death for you. You can lead your life happily. And I am Sadhu Rishi. I do not want this apple. What's the use of this apple to me? So you can have this. Then the Rishi received that, received the apple. This Bhartrhari received the apple. And he thought at night, what is the use of this apple to me? I am growing old. And one day I'm going to die. I don't want this life. So he loves his wife very much. So he gave this apple to his wife, saying, please have this. I love you very much. You can have this because I want to see you beautiful forever. Then the king left. But the queen didn't love Bhartrhari. She loved the doorkeeper. And at night, secretly, she went to him and offered him the apple. Please have this because I love you very much and I want to see you young. But the doorkeeper didn't love the queen. He loved a superstition. He loved the prostitute. Then what he did, he went to the prostitute and he gave the apple. Then again the prostitute thought for a while that what is the use of having such apples and live life permanently? Because life means suffering, suffering. Life means suffering. And everyone wants to redeem from the cyclical pattern of life and death. So again she came back to Bhartrhari with the apple. And she offered the apple to Bhartrhari, saying, please have this. This is an immortal fruit. Then Bhartrhari got shocked how this apple reached to that prostitute. So what's essential here is Bhartrhari investigated the whole matter and came to know the whole story, what happened behind him. And he's fed up of life. He's sick of life. He doesn't want to lead his life. Then he left life and went to jungle, forest, and went through samadhi, sama plus adhi, means you get unified with your own self, the self with the super consciousness, the supreme power of God, the supreme power. So it's a mingling. So before he goes to samadhi, what he did is that he wrote 3 books, Sringara, Nitishatak, and Vakyapadiya. So everything that was written, which was again repeated and reflected by Jacques Derrida in deconstruction. Because many questions remain unanswered to many scholars. Because if you ask questions like, what is a word? What is reading? What is writing? What is life? What is time? It's very easy to interpret things. It's very easy to define things, but it's very difficult to know what something is. There is one more thing I would like to say about a beautiful conversation between Dr. Johnson and Boswell. Dr. Johnson one day asked Boswell, what was the question? What is poetry? Then Boswell said, we all know what light means. We all know what light means, but we don't know what it is. It's very easy to interpret, define things, but it's very difficult to understand what something is. Because interpretation is beyond human capabilities, human intelligence. So here we come across the theory of the Spota theory. So here, so many things are there in my mind. So what I say is that all of you are listening to me. You have many questions in your mind as well. So my question is that, are you permanent? I'm not talking about your job. I'm talking about human life. Are you permanent? No, no one is permanent. Everyone wants to be permanent spiritually. Everyone wants to know what the life is all about. So here we are in pursuit of the universal knowledge. Generations after generations, stories are orally transmitted from one generation to another, and it is written in written forms. In literature, thousands of writers use myths in order to keep its survival. So your literature offers knowledge reaching back into antiquity. So here we are talking about antiquity. Knowledge of literature is necessary or constructive as it is expressed by Plato's expulsion of poets from the city in his Republic. Either opinion or belief, knowledge organizes information. We look for knowledge means we look for information. Whenever we look for opinions and beliefs, then we go for the universal knowledge, because we become blind and directionless. in order to acquire the knowledge which are beyond human comprehension. The sense of individual is objective for knowledge which is founded, justifiable, thought-provoking. Because here are two things, the objective knowledge and subjective knowledge. Knowledge is not static but dynamic in nature. It's a dynamic process. There are the latest findings in the studies of culture, history, philosophy, and the sciences. Myth leads to the fictional world making. So the fictional world is being made. Michael Wood opines following Roland Barthes that literature can only give us a taste of knowledge, a sample, rather than an elaborate or plentiful meal. So here we read literature and we accumulate knowledge. So this knowledge is not enough because it lacks something. It wants something. Because it's not an elaborate or plentiful meal. We are going to have to go elsewhere for the continuous main course. It means we are in pursuit of knowledge which are beyond human capabilities. The knowledge of science, religion, aesthetics, literature, and myth are stored and made retrievable for future generations. After our life, what exactly we are going to do? We are thinking of giving the knowledge that we have received to the next generation. It's a knowledge of science, knowledge of religion, aesthetics, literature, math, and all these things. If we talk about Bermuda Triangle, you might have heard about that. In South also there are so many mysterious things. What it is exactly, nobody knows and will never know. Because man cannot fathom these things. So that's why whatever the man perceives becomes God. I can't understand anything about the moon. That's why the moon is God. I can't understand anything about the sun. That's why the sun is God. Trees, God. River, God. All the objects in the nature have their own mythical stories. And when we study it deeply, we come to know about that. Because it's an incessant chain of refreshing the stories. Maybe orally, maybe in its written form, but it is being transmitted from one generation to another. So this literature becomes sound. The knowledge of science, religion, aesthetics, literature, and myth are stored and made retrievable for future generations. They are restored and recontextualized and revived. They contribute to existent system of knowledge. So here, Indian mythology in literature, mythological themes in Indian literature, bearing its most significant traces in two epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, are pointed out by Embreen Safdar Karbi in the essay Mythological Exploration in the Thousand Faces of Night, Where Shall We Go This Summer, and A Matter of Time. So we see one thing, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, so many stories we come across. Is it a myth? Are Ramayana and Mahabharata myths? That's a debatable point. Because everything is relative. It's a theory of relativity. And individual knowledge, because generalizations cannot be particularized, or the particularizations cannot be generalized. They are totally different from one another. So here generalizations can be made can be made through the acceptance of doctrines of life, the same, ubiquitous all over the world. For example, the man in America may think the same what man in India thinks. That is spiritus mundi. Rationally, we are the same. Spiritually, we are the same. And we are culturally, socially, geographically, historically different. So if everything is relied on our own spiritual awakenings, the understanding of the life might be different. So here, mythological themes are mostly found in literatures, in Indian literature. Greek mythology is there. Trojan War. So here is one example, that is Ramayana and Mahabharata are pointed out by Ambreen Sardar Karbi in the essay Mythological Exploration in the Thousand Faces of Night. Where shall we go this summer? A matter of time. She puts forth the protagonist Sita in Where shall we go this summer recalls the qualities of Lord Rama's wife Sita in the Ramayana. So here Sita is reminded, the qualities of Sita expressed. A Matter of Time reflects myth from Upanishad and Katha Upanishad. Deshpande in this novel rewrites myth. The three sections of the novel deal with three different Indian myths as the great epics, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Upanishads. Arkanarayan uses a retelling of the Bhasmasur myth in modern terms to scrutinize the social practice of gender, exclusively masculinity in middle class, upper class, southern India. This was shown by Lakshmi Muthukumar in the essay problematizing R.K. Narayan's use of myth in The Man-Eater of Malgudi. There is one more thing which is very indicative and suggestive to all of us, that is the Lakshman Rekha. Indicates a symbol of patriarchal control over the female movement. Male domination is rooted in the racial unconscious of the Indian patriarchal society. This is reflected in Muktaja Mukherjee's essay, Stereotypical Lakshman Rekha and Ram Mehta's Inside the Haveli. The Indian woman's predicament was shown in Shoyanti Talwar's mythicizing women who make a choice, a prerogative of the Indian collective unconscious to demarcate modesty and right conduct for women. So Sati, Radha, Kunti, Draupadi, Shakuntala are nothing but the symbolic manifestations of rules and regulations for a woman's behavior in a male-dominated Indian society. So there is one more example from literature, that is the Yayati myth in the Adi Parva of the Mahabharata. The father-son exchange of ages and the theme of responsibility, the Yavakri myth that I have told you. The parallel Vritti myth in the Vanaparva, Brahmin power struggles and patriarchal anxieties are also shown in Sushila Vijay Kumar's mythic reworkings in Girish Karnad's Yayati and the Fire and the Rain. Draupadi is shown as a multifaceted personality, the female character of the epic, the Mahabharata. In Titiksha Dhruv's essay, Being Draupadi, 3 takes. So Draupadi myth has been revived and explored by 3 contemporary novelists such as Dr. Pratibha Ray's Yajna Semi, Chitra Banerjee's Divakaruni's The Palace of Illusions, and the Kajal Oza Vaidya's Draupadi. The representative mythical poems theory of linguistic criticism, the text as its own universe and the meaning, linguistic theory offering the structure of language, phonology, lexis, graphology, syntax, semantics, and the systematic terminology of linguistics are detailed in Uddhav Ashtarkar's essay, Arun Kholotkar's Yashwant Rao, a stylist view of the mythical text. So we come across such thousands of examples in literature. Ample examples you can come across the mythological elements in literature. There is a great scope for research because we look for the resource of mythology. So many characteristics are there regarding to the myth in literature. So god-like reigning gods and heroes have lower status than gods. A god's daughter or son is fully mortal. So in literature, god's daughter or son is fully mortal. Characters possess supernatural abilities. The mythological stories are very old and have ruled the world. To science, philosophy, and technology, the notions of myth is not very clear. This is very important. It's not clear. Everything is not proven. Can we prove everything in life? No. We cannot prove each and everything in our life. You ask many questions to yourself. The things you come across. Many things remain unanswered. So there is a one video that I will show you. I will share it later. So myths are often said to be real and unreal, true or false. For the primitive men, it was real. Everything was real. And for the modern men, they question. For example, the Ramayana really happened. The Mahabharata really happened. If we question, then there will be two groups. One group will say yes, one group will say no. One will say yes. Why? Because evidences are there. History talks about evidences. So we show these are the proofs. That's why something existed before. But we don't know exactly. If we think of our great grandfathers, about their existence, about their activities and actions, sometimes we hear most of the stories of our forefathers and we hardly believe. But we believe. Why? Because it is being told by mother. What I suggest is that things which are beyond your comprehension are not true. Can you say that? I repeat. Things which are beyond human comprehension are not true. Can we say that? It means we understand something means that's real. We do not understand something means that's false. Can we say like that? That may be right, that may be real, that may be correct. It means what is important is our self-realization, awakening. The spiritual awakening is necessary for that. So the reasonable explanations are required for its truth. Gods and goddesses, supernatural powers are the major features of God. Myths have ancient origins and cannot be explained scientifically. So this is very important. Everything is not proven scientifically. Our questions are rational. Our questions are for receiving information. but not knowledge. Information is different and knowledge is different. Because there are many scholars that they are looking for the principles of life, the doctrines of life. So talking about myth and literature, authors develop fictional worlds of female heroes and magical tales affirming the universe. For example, in her myth novel Antelope Wife, including Paradise, Toni Morrison has mythical tendencies. Plays include the elements of feminism. The feminist mythologist Marta Weigel, repeated by Levi-Strauss, believes that the most important function of myth is its world creating, world affirming aspects. A male dominated society is failed studying male centered myths and female centered myths. Weigel uses the descriptions of spinning and weaving. Marta Weigel states that myths are necessary in times of identity crisis. Myths are essential. Weigel also states in many of our traditional stories the lack of female gods, deities, and heroes. These female created deities are seldom found. It is thus very important to find so many powerful female hero figures and revise myths in contemporary female writers' work, predominantly in female writers. The theories of mythologies are applied to oral forms. So whenever we talk about mythology, we talk about the oral transmission of stories. The novel by Edrich allows us to remember that the fidelity of form noted in oral genres often applies to written genres. Her novel works as a myth. It offers images, symbols of the rebirth of culture that preserve translations while suggesting how to live and think of being an indigenous person today. The Antelope Wife represents Ozib's culture's regeneration. Edrich's world-shattering myth is an instrument for and a replication of a culture while serving a modern audience by providing time-appropriate characters and symbols. It has been taken from her experiences, motivation, and artistic tools while recollecting conventional images and messages. Her work can be considered a conventional tale or myth. So there is a very strong relationship between the myths and literature. The explanation of mythology is derived from the word myth, as you know. The word comes from the Greek word mythos, which means fable, legend, or sagas. The word myth is a story that rationalizes the universe and the world around us. So this myth makes us think about life, passed down orally from generations to generation, explaining religious origin, natural phenomena, or supernatural event. So, what exactly mythology is? Mythology is a collection of myths. It's a collection of myths that deals with cosmogony. Literature is a body of written works of language, period, or culture. It can be divided into fiction, fairy tale, gothic saga, and non-fiction, essay, journal, science fiction. There are many distinctive natures of mythology, and they describe what a particular person or society believes during that particular period of time. So it's a part of our belief, whether it's true or not. Myths serve as a charter for their institutions, customs, and beliefs. The typical mythology is the explanation of the universe and its ethnology. The setting is all about God, goddesses, supernatural beings, and for example, Jews, Adam and Eve, Prometheus. These stories explain why things are and how they become so. So in life, it's very essential, one more thing, that if we question why, we go deeper and deeper in order to find out the truth. It rationalized our way of thinking, reconcile us to reality, and establishes our pattern of life. Apart from the explanation of the creation of the universe, so why we need to go to myths, why we need mythological stories, why we need mythology? Because We need mythology in order to know the origin of the universe, in order to know the creation of the universe, in order to know what the people thought about the universe at that particular time. So we wanted to know the natural phenomena. So there are so many things we need to know which are unknown to us. That's why we need it. That's why it is being reflected and portrayed in literature. Certain myths explain the way the sun exists. What about the sun? What is it? If we study the Big Bang theory, we can understand how it is created. Why there is night and day? Again, there is the science. Again, the geographical principles and things we come to know and study about that. We study so many things in the universe, it's true, but are we satisfied with the study? Are we satisfied what we have studied? Do we think that it's the final things? Can we finalize the things which we have already studied? Because every time we feel that something lacks in it, we need something more. Some explains the existence of seasons, spring season, how it is created, winter season, summer season, autumn season. Everything has its own story. Others show off Mother Nature providing us with food and shelter. These myths advocate a way of understanding nature and organizing thought. For example, structuralism recognizes different contrasting aspects such as light and dark, good and evil, as centers to myth, which charters for social order and value within a society. If a child is not sleeping, we go on telling him the stories from mythology. So, directly or indirectly, or consciously or unconsciously, we keep a social order. We retain, we sustain human values in the universe. Myths have been created by human beings for many reasons over thousands of years. There is a reason behind the creation of myths thousands of years ago. So that's why these myths are an intellectual product of humanity and a rich resource for the ideas and belief of past generations. It's a product of humanity. Man starts universalizing his ideas, his notions about life. He reshuffles his ideas about the universe, the time, and the belief of past generations. For example, very simple example I would like to say to all of you, that we think that something is superstition. The old people used to say that, and we call it as a superstition. Never believe in that, right? When the same superstition is proven by the scientist, then we understand how intelligent the primitive men were. Then it becomes science. Everything. We say that we must not blindly believe in the things we perceive. That's false consideration. That's myth. If something turns out benevolent, very fruitful, useful to the mankind, then it becomes the asset. So in this fashion, I would like to say something that these myths are really an intellectual property to humankind, to humanity, to religious notions. In each and every religion we have this. Many questions still linger in our mind. And man seeks to find out the exact meaning of something. Remember my words. We can interpret things only. We can interpret things only, but we never understand what something is. We can understand what something means, but we never understand what something is. Thousands of definitions, thousands of theories might have been written in order to explain the origin of the universe. Still the questions, the same questions will stand as it is to the next generations. Although the generations go on, still the questions of life are endless, incessant. It has its continuous chain of inquiry into the self. That's why the amazing and incredible feature combined with the constant thought and keeps mythology functioning. What's important, we keep mythology functioning and literature moving. Look at these two words. We keep mythology functioning in our day-to-day life, and we keep literature moving on and on. There are many differences between literature and mythology. For example, they were used for different purposes and existed in different times. Myth has many purposes, such as a socio-political control over society, spreading a myth about something to control people, to scare people when facts were not available. What is the purpose of myths? The purpose of the myth is to control people, to scare people, to create phobia, fear into the minds of the people, and to show them the correct way of righteousness. Literature is more about persuading and informing people. There are other benefits to mythology that cannot be achieved in literature, such as there is no periphery to the world. There is no such thing as false, there is low risk. The definition of mythology is derived from the word myth. The word myth is a story that rationalizes the universe and the world around us. So this rationalization of the universe is essential, because here are two things that we can understand about life. That's why everything we understand with the help of mind. This is one. If we try to understand each and everything with the help of mind, we have limitations, demarcations. We have a specific circle around which we move only. We wheel ourselves. We particularize ourselves. We never generalize if we rely on the mind. Because Montague has also said the same thing. Interpretation needs to be interpreted. Interpretations need to be interpreted first. Because each and every interpretation demands further interpretations. Again, we will have interpretation. And it will also demand further interpretations. So in this way, there is a cycle of interpretations. In a nutshell, or in short, I would like to say one thing, that myths teaches morals. It plays a major role in science, psychology, philosophy, literature. Price's word shows the link between myth and literature. So to him, Greek word myth saying, a myth is a tale, myth is narrative or a poetic literature. Myth are literature as fables. They provide literature with concepts, patterns. What exactly we understand myths? These are the symbols, recurring symbols in literature we can come across. Many concepts of myths, patterns. They also provide literature with story, character, theme, pictures. So these words are very essential. We come across stories, different characters. So these characters remind Sita, Draupadi. These characters remind us many stories which have been orally told to us. So literature is fictional by itself. In this way, we can say that literature is fictional in this sense. So such stories are not believed. So we call it as fictional. Literature and mythology are important for human development, which plays a vital role in the intellectual world. Today's world is intellectual. People are intelligent, very smart, talented. They are genius. They use their mind at its extreme levels in order to understand something, but they will never understand many things in nature as they grow old. A child has the same questions. The same questions will be found by an old man on the bed. Questions remain unanswered, unsolved. So it's a human development. So these myths are important for human development, plays a vital role in the intellectual world. It keeps influencing our modern world as in the past. Hello? Hello? I can. Okay, okay. We stop. Okay. Okay. Yes. So there is a call that I just received from the host of the seminar. So there should be some discussion about that. Actually, I have so many things to talk to you. Preparation was also there. Okay. So you can raise the queries if you have any question or any doubt. So we can have the discussions.
Sir, this is a question from Dr. Utpal Rakshit. Sir, please define demythologization. Mythologization. Yes, sir. Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, yes.
So it's a question from Dr. Utpal. It is, sir, please define demythologization. Demythologization, sir.
Okay, okay. Yes. Sir,
Sir, you please unmute yourself, sir.
okay. Can you please elaborate the question?
So it is,
Means I didn't get exactly what the answer is expected. from my side.
So it is, can you define demythologization?
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, okay, okay. So one thing for the definition of methodization, we can say one thing. You hear me now?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Ah, yes. See, first of all, it's very important to understand what life means, because there are many questions which are beyond the human comprehension. So, what happens to the primitive man, when the universe was created? So, how it was created, who created it? So, these questions are different. But here, relating to your question of methodization, we can assert one thing, that the primitive man found himself very difficult to lead the life, because while leading life he came across, or he encountered, a number of difficulties, obstacles, problems in his life. So what exactly he did is that whatever he pursued, he made it as a god. Maybe a river, maybe the mountain, maybe the sun, the moon, the galaxy, whatever he pursues in the nature, he names it as God. So here, there is again one thing, or one question arises, what exactly God means. So the meaning of a God is different to different people at different times. Why? Because the meaning of God is understood if we believe in something, the invisible power. For example, here we say that the earth moves around the sun. It's a universal fact. It was there in the past, it's in the present, and it will be in the future. So the earth has its own rotations around the sun. So we believe in it or not. There is one thing that makes it clear, that nothing moves without a force. So for moving it also, the force is required. The force is necessitated in order to move the dead objects moving. So it's our psychological condition, it's our psychic phobia that makes man believe in something which he has not accepted wholeheartedly. It means man begins to believe in the things which are beyond human capabilities, understanding, and comprehension. So here, the origin of myth begins from this point onwards, and he mythologized each and everything that he pursued in the course of time. So this becomes very crucial in the modern time as well, because what happens is that in modern time, so these stories are have been orally transmitted to the up to the modern time, so wherein the people try to understand the purpose of mythology. The purpose of the mythology is to keep the social order, is to humanize people, universalize the people, and make them conscious about the things. One more thing is that it's the unconscious mind. There are many stories still linger in our unconscious mind, and this unconscious mind becomes conscious whenever some disastrous, catastrophic conditions happen. So here also is the epidemics of corona that is widely spread all over the world, and we are confined at our own homes. We are not allowed to go outside. It's a fear. But if we go deep and deep in order to fathom the roots of finding out the solution to the problem, everything is possible. Everything can be had through the mythology. If we believe and if we find out the roots of the problems. So here, that's why we say in India, Indians' understanding of this corona, maybe corona or any other problem, is different. Why? Because in India, man relies on the stories or believes in the stories told by the primitive men, which have been traditionally uh, transmitted from one generation to another. So in this mode, what a man does is that man simply accepts what the people said before. For example, this is the antidote of this disease, or this is the solution of this problem, and we follow it. And sometimes some people call it as a superstition, some people call it as a nonsense thing, but there is a sense. There is a sense in each and everything, because man is a rational being who wants to find out and fathom the sense in everything he perceives. But there are many nonsensical things in life wherein the man fails to understand the essence of life. So that's why mythology is very crucial at the present time also. Why? Because these stories talk us many aspects which are unknown to the human beings and which rationalizes and universalizes the man and gives us the sense. Thank you very much. I have two videos. If you want to see, I want to show them, or you want to ask questions. There is a one video. Can I share this? Can I share one video?
Sir, you can. Share it, sir.
I will show you some videos. Please have watch.
The universe is everything, from the tiniest particles to the largest galaxies.
Can you watch this, sir?
Sir?
Can you watch this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's playing.
To the very
Origins of
extent of
universe.
space, time, and life. But how did it all begin? The origin of the universe is the origin of everything. Multiple scientific theories, plus creation myths from around the world, have tried to explain its mysterious genesis. However, the most widely accepted explanation is the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory states that the universe began as a hot and infinitely dense point. Only a few millimeters wide, it was similar to a supercharged black hole. About 13.7 billion years ago, this tiny singularity violently exploded. And it is from this explosion, this bang, that all matter, energy, space, and time were created. What happened next were two major stages of the universe's evolution. Called the radiation and matter eras, they're defined by key events that helped shape the universe. First came the radiation era, named for the dominance of radiation right after the Big Bang. This era is made of smaller stages, called epochs, that occurred within the universe's first tens of thousands of years. The earliest is the Planck epoch. No matter existed in the universe at this time, only energy and the ancestor to the four forces of nature, the superforce. At the end of this stage, however, a key event occurred in which gravity split away from the superforce. Next came the Grand Unification Epoch, named for the three remaining unified forces of nature. This epoch ended when one of those forces, called strong or strong nuclear, broke away. Then, the inflationary epoch began, during which the universe rapidly expanded. Almost instantly, it grew from the size of an atom to the size of a grapefruit. The universe at this time
Sorry, sir. Hello.
turned with electrons, quarks, and other
Yes, sir.
Sir, continue, sir. Sorry, some disturbance here.
particles. Then came the electroweak epoch, when the last two forces, electromagnetic and weak, finally split off. During the next stage, the quark epoch, all of the universe's ingredients were present. However, the universe was still too hot and dense for subatomic particles to form. Then, in the hadron epoch, the universe cooled down enough for quarks to bind together and form protons and neutrons. In the lepton and nuclear epochs, the radiation era's last two stages, the protons and neutrons underwent a significant change. They fused and created nuclei, and in doing so, they created the first chemical element in the universe, helium. The universe's new ability to form elements, the building blocks of matter, cued the matter era. Much as the name suggests, the matter era is defined by the presence and predominance of matter in the universe. It features three epochs that span billions of years, the vast majority of the universe's lifespan, and includes the present day. The first was the atomic epoch. In this stage, the universe's temperature cooled down enough for electrons to attach to nuclei for the first time. Called recombination, this process helped create the universe's second element, hydrogen. This hydrogen, along with helium atoms, dotted the universe with atomic clouds. Within the clouds, small pockets of gas may have had enough gravity to cause atoms to collect. These clusters of atoms, formed during the galactic epoch, became the seedlings of galaxies. Nestled inside those galaxies, stars began to form. And in doing so, they cued the latest and current stage of the universe's development, the stellar epoch. The formation of stars then caused a tremendous ripple effect and helped shape the universe as we know it. Heat within the stars caused the conversion of helium and hydrogen into almost all the remaining elements in the universe. In turn, those elements became the building blocks for planets, moons, life, everything we see today.
Yes, sir.
This ecosystem of everything was only possible because of the many stages in the universe's development. While countless questions about the origins of our universe remain, it's only a matter of time for some long-sought answers to emerge.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Hi, sir.
And sir, and
Sir, one more video is there.
actually, everyone is leaving. Our schedule is 3:30, sir.
Okay, okay. Can
And
you
we can share that. We can share that video link to all the participants.
Okay, okay.
And sir, this is another interesting question. And can you suggest, sir, are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Can you suggest a research area in mythology?
Okay, okay. Just 1 minute. Whose question is this?
And this is a question. Why? Just a minute, sir. I didn't copy your name.
Okay, it's okay, no problem.
Okay, fine.
So regarding into the research area, there is a large scope for research. Okay. You can do your research on the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Upanishad, the Vedas as well. So regarding to this, we can have your research, especially on Aranyakas or just a minute. Let's have the list of this one. So you can do research on the mythical elements in literature, in poetry, in fiction, in drama.
And sir, excuse me, sir, you there?
Yes, yes.
And sir, does it have any connection with reality? Reality, it means that our day-to-day life, how it is intertwined.
Yes, it's okay. So these two things are very different. So this question is quite brilliant and this question is quite correct. Why? Because uh, reality is a relative term. One thing. First thing is that reality is a relative term. It differs from person to person. What is real to you may not be real to me, or what is real to me may not be real to you. There is the best example of the elephant and four men. So the four men touch the elephant and they interpret the objects differently, whatever they perceived the object. So our perception is not the reality most of the times. Perception never means the reality. Reality has its connection with the relativity of individualism. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the reality is up to the human perception about the objects, whether something really exists or not. So the reality and the myth stand poles apart. They are opponents to each other.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And I request Dr. Mrs. G. Kameshwari, Head Department of English, to propose vote of thanks. Kameshwari, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hi.
Am I audible, sir?
Right, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's clear.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And my warm good evening to the eminent speaker, Dr. Pramod, sir, and participants of this national webinar, Interface Between Mythology and Literature. Sir, I'm so inspired with this topic, sir, because I believe strongly and up to me, both mythology and literature are interconnected with each other, and it cannot be separated from each other, as you stated. And being a wide area, mythology, it is very difficult to discuss with the stipulated time, I think so.
Yes.
So even though you explained well this session, sir, you explained this topic, and I believe that this session would be a spark or key to the participants' mind to think over of it further for their study or for their research, I think so.
Yes.
And I blindly believe our mythology are much valuable and to be taught to our children. Okay, anyway, I just skip to my business, that is proposing vote of thanks of the session. I feel that it is my duty that I should thank the Reverend Secretary, respected Principal Ma'am, and the Director Sir for making us feel free in organizing webinars like this. And they are very much supportive. They were very much guiding us in every way. Thank you, sirs and ma'am, for your permission for conducting this webinar. And Dr. Pramodji, I thank you very much, sir. Uh, we have already met in our college. Your explanation was very good. I have know already. You are very much familiar with this topic, I think so. And you have spoken on it very well. Your slang is so good, and your replies to the participants' questions are also very satisfied to the participants. I hope so. Through their comments on this chat box, they comment on that. Sir, very well, sir. Fantastic sessions, sir. Wonderful sessions, sir. They have commented on this session.
Okay.
And thank you very much, sir, for being connected with us around 2 hours. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And especially now I thank, I convey my thank and as well as congratulate the organizing secretary, Saravanan sir, for organizing this webinar, which is the second webinar of our department. And hereafter, we are also having few more programs in our schedule too, sir, by the same organizing secretary.
Yes, sir.
And so I should thank the hardworking and active person for conducting this seminars in an effective manner. And I must thank all the participants. They are the very wonderful participants. They are very active. I can know that all teachers are very, very fond of, and they are very interested in mythology. Because I can come to know that they are frequently asking questions on this area. I know that not many, but few of the teachers or 50% of our teachers are very interested in mythology. So far, I think that it is not interested. I think so. That is up to my knowledge. I know that, but today it is my belief turns to wrong. Like me, many of persons are interested in mythology. And thank you, every participants. More than 100 participants participated in this seminar all around India. So once again I thank every participant wholeheartedly. And I thank again Dr. Saravanan sir for making me involved as a part of this session. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you, Pramod sir. And thank you very much for our department's members also. Thank you, sir. Thank you, one and all.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. We will meet again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And, I expect the feedback, okay, on my presentation.
Sure, sure, sir, I will send you everything. And ma'am, thank you so much for your sweet words. And sir, I just want to make a note.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, I just want to make a note that according to Carl Jung, he believes that myth voices the truth of our unconscious selves.
Yes, yes.
And he also believes that the most sophisticated and important literature requires some mythological aspects. So there should be some mythological aspects in each literature.
Yes, correct. That is
So we cannot separate mythology from literature. So they are connected. Am I right, sir?
We can never separate that.
Yes. And also it plays a major role in this intellectual world for the overall development.
Okay, sir.
Of course, sir. Of course.
Feedback and everything, okay?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I will send you everything. And I will forward all the questions to you and I need a reply for that so that I can forward that to the participants.
Okay.
I'll forward all the questions to you, sir.
Okay. So can I stop here now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And but my dear participants, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.